Welcome to the Unquiet Men podcast, hosted by Irv Lindsay, a board-certified mental health counselor. This podcast explores men's mental health, behavior, and the science of change. Please note, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health care. If you are in emotional distress or experiencing a crisis, call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Help is available 24/7. And now, here's your host, Irv Lindsay.
Greetings. Irv here. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. I hope things are going good for you. In this video, I want to talk about, I want to do some relapse prevention education. If you are in the process of getting sober and you're also in the process of trying to find long-term change in your life, that means not just being sober, but also recovering. I want to talk about what is relapse. And I'll ask you that. When I say the word relapse, what is it that you think of? Relapse usually means that you have returned to a previous behavior, an old state of being, something that you have quit or moved on from or changed. You've gone back and you've started doing that thing again. In recovery terms, in substance use terms, that means that you have partaken of a mind-altering, emotionally changing substance. Typically your substance of choice. The thing that it is that you have worked hard to not do, you have done. Now, change is an interesting thing. When you're trying to change yourself, you have to do it with a clear mind. So you have to be sober. But when we're talking about change, we're talking about a little thing called the stages of change. And if you've done any type of treatment at all, then you've received this education before, but I want to review the stages of change. It's been accepted as kind of a foundational idea in counseling and substance use. What is the first stage of change? Well, you have to admit that you need to make a change. So we call the first stage pre-contemplation, which means it comes before the contemplation stage. It's not very inventive of a title, but is what it's called, pre-contemplation. This means that you're not even contemplating change. It's not in your head. To use weight loss as a nice non-triggery example when I'm talking about stages of change. So this is when you need to lose a bunch of weight. It's affecting your health, your life, your work, your relationships. It's affecting all areas of your life, but you don't know. This is the point at which you go to Walmart because your clothes shrunk, right? Typically in this stage, there's a lot of finger pointing. The person who is in a pre-contemplation stage of change is blaming other people because it can't be my fault. I don't have a problem. So that's kind of pre-contemplation. You're not committed at all to making a change, and you probably are only at most vaguely aware there's a problem. Contemplation is where now you're aware there's a problem. Maybe this is the moment where you went to the doctor's office and you stepped on the scale and you saw that super huge number because you haven't stepped on a scale in 10 years because you weren't aware there was a problem and you didn't care. So you become aware there's a problem, but you haven't said, I've got a problem, I need to do something. The next stage is called preparation. I like to call this the planning stage, and I often say planning stage accidentally, but it's officially called preparation. This is where you're like, okay, not only do I need to do something, but I need to come up with an idea. So you decide you need to lose weight, right? So it's a lot like substance use. You got to figure out, how am I going to do this? Am I going to do it on my own? Do I want to go seek medical treatment? Do I want to get counseling? Do I want to go to a community support group? Maybe some combination of these. Do I want to find a doctor that does medication treatment for this? So you read, you research, you ask friends. Maybe, just maybe, you actually go to a meeting, or you check out a treatment clinic, or you go talk to a doctor. Action is the next stage. Action is where you actually get off your butt and you go out and you're enacting that plan and you're making change. So you think everybody walking in the front door of a treatment clinic would be in a action stage of change? No. Fear is a great motivator. Fear of loss will get you in the front door. That doesn't mean you've committed to making a change. That means you're only committed to resolving your fear. So you take action, you make a change. Then comes what I believe is the hardest stage of change, and that's maintenance. Maintenance is where you maintain the change in your life that you have made. And once you can do that, my friends, then you've made it. Relapse, however, can happen at any point along the way, and that's where you trip up and you fall back into a pattern of use. And you start doing the thing that you're committed to change. That simply means that you need to stop. It's a learning experience. How could I have prevented that relapse? What could I have done differently? And what can I learn from this? And you integrate that information into your next planning stage and action stage. And that is relapse. Relapse isn't the end of the world. Relapse isn't where you give up and you just start using back at your old habits. Relapse is a point that you want to stop and learn. It's a learning experience. That's all. That's what relapse is. So I want to start digging into recovery. What is recovery? Recovery is kind of fixing things, right? Recovery is where you have gotten sober, your mind is clear, and now you can think calmly, rationally, and during this period of time, you're going to gain insight. Have you heard of Maslow's pyramid? I bet you have. The first time I heard of Maslow's pyramid was in a junior high school life skills class, I think in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, something like that. So Abraham Maslow was a psychological theorist, and he did a lot of research in human needs. So his original theory was kind of conceptualized as a pyramid. The idea is the pyramid's divided into levels, and you can't fully meet higher levels until the levels underneath them are taken care of. At the very bottom is physiological needs. This is stuff your body just needs for basic physical health. Okay, air, water, temperature regulation. What are some things that you crave? Because this is the list of stuff that if you don't do it, at the very least, you're going to get a craving for it. If you don't drink, you're going to get thirsty. If you don't eat, you're going to get hungry. But if you continue to not, if you ignore that, you'll start to feel sick. It's like if you don't eat when you're hungry, you're going to get maybe a headache, maybe a stomach ache. You're going to start feeling the effects of malnutrition if you don't eat for a long period of time. All of these things can affect your mental health as well. So let's talk about the next level is safety needs. So this is going to be protection from physical and psychological harm. Housing is on this level. I also think of transportation is on this level, because transportation provides you with safety. For instance, riding the bus downtown. In no major city, a downtown area is typically a sketchy place to be walking around. And if you have transportation, it provides a greater sense of safety. So safety is important. However, why is safety not a base need? Because you will leave your home and family and everything else that's on above it on the pyramid, and take your family across the country in search of food. Because if you don't have a good enough job, you'll go looking for it. That's why safety needs are on the second level. They're important, but they're not something that is quite the same. Love and belongingness needs is next. You don't have food, you don't have medical care, you don't have a place to live, you don't have transportation. You're not going to be thinking about relationships. And it's not just romance. We're talking about parents, brothers, sisters. We're talking about the need to belong to a group. We also have self-esteem, self-respect, the respect of others. We need to be valued both by ourselves and others. So when you get sober, you need to rebuild. And Maslow's pyramid is a tool that I use to help conceptualize areas of life that they've neglected, because drugs show up, they kind of ghost in the base level, as a physiological need. See, they're not. They're not a physiological. But if you don't do it, it makes you sick, and you will crave it like you will food or water. And it kind of shows up as a base need. So, my friends, you will abandon everything else on the pyramid, chasing and searching and using your addiction. And I have found this is largely true outside of substance use. If you have an addiction, gambling, porn, it can cause the same problems. In an attempt to change yourself and recover, you will have to fix other things in your life that have suffered as a result. If you liked this video, check up right up here. Should be a playlist with the rest of the videos in this relapse prevention series. Guys, I appreciate you watching wherever you are, whenever you are. Keep fighting a good fight, and I'll see you in the next video.
You've been listening to the Unquiet Men podcast with Irv Lindsay. If something in today's episode hit home, leave us an anonymous voice memo at unquietmen.com. Your story might help another man heal. And don't forget to try the Unquiet Challenge. Doing happy things is how you become a happier person. This podcast is for educational purposes only and does not replace therapy. If you're in crisis, call or text 988. Until next time, keep building the life you weren't taught to build, one action at a time.